Hello, Ken Spriggs here with a short video, not showing a model build, but showing a display that I made to show one of my models and showcase it. At the end of my last video, I showed some shelves that I put together and put up on the wall to start displaying my models, the first time I've started doing that. It encouraged me to continue on and to work on some other things, and I'll still keep adding some things in the future. But this one particularly, I wanted to be able to hang one of my larger models, my Mobius Discovery that I built about 2 years ago. And I was thinking about some ideas of hanging it on the wall, and I came across a 3D printed bracket on Facebook that I was able to get the files for and use it for that. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so as I showed at the end of my last video showing Mando and Queel riding their blurgs, I put up some shelves onto my living room wall next to my television so I could start displaying my models because I didn't really have a place to put them. So what I'm going to do, continuing on with this idea, and there's the models there, there's my Mando and Queel diorama, as you can see. But I do have some other models to put on the shelves, but I also have the Mobius Discovery, which I built about 2 years ago. And it's a pretty long model, obviously, so I've been thinking of a way to try to put it up onto my wall and have it coming out with some brackets. There were some acrylic ones available on Etsy that I went and looked up again, but it says that they're taking a break, so I wasn't able to get those. But luckily, I came across on a 2001-2010 Building the Discovery Facebook group, which I belong to, a gentleman named Richard Capstick, and he 3D printed a Discovery, a larger one, and he used some brackets that he hung it up on the wall with, which he showed in his recent post. So I contacted him on there and got the information for it. And here's one of the brackets, and I 3D printed it in white resin, which I have, and it's from Thingiverse. There was an issue with the file on there not being on there, so I talked to Richard and he emailed a copy of it to me. There's another version of it that has a little box for the electronics and a switch if you're going to wire some wires through this and bring it up into the ship, like the command module. But I don't have to do that since mine's lit by batteries that are internal, and it has a remote control, so I can turn it on and off remotely without having to get up there and do that. So I went ahead and printed one of these out, and all I had to really do was make sure that this little cradle here was about 3/4 of an inch, because that's how wide it would have to be for the Discovery, the Mobius that I'm using. So this goes onto the wall, and you have 3 holes there for screws. And then you just stick this little cradle, or you just rest the 3 points of the ship at the back, the middle, and the front of the spine onto the supports, and it just hangs it up there. So let me go ahead and show you how this works on the model itself. All right, there we go. So I'm just kind of holding it in place here, and it's not on a wall, obviously. But that's basically what it's going to do. It's just going to stick down in that little cradle, and then that part's going to screw onto the wall with the 2001 facing up. And there's going to be 3 of them. One on the back, one right in front of the antenna dish, and then one, let me try to pull this back here, sorry it's so big, and one right up in front of the ball section, right up in the front, so that they are nicely supported. So right under there, because you'll have the heavy ball on the front, right in front of this, and right here, right in front of that, because the spine is the weakest part. So that's going to be the best supported, and then the part's going to be glued on, or not glued, screwed onto the wall, sorry. Screwed onto the wall, hold on a second. Don't throw on the floor. Okay. So I'm going to have 3 screws holding it on, right? These 3 right here onto the wall. And then this will be sticking up like this. and then it'll just rest down into the cradle. So it won't be attached in any way, but it will be, it'll be plenty of support to hold this up. The model itself isn't very heavy. It's just long and very fragile in the middle because of the spine. So, okay, but that's gonna look fantastic. So let me go ahead and print 2 more of these. And I printed them in white so I wouldn't have to paint them or anything. And they'll go just naturally. I could do them in clear. I have some clear resin, but I think the white will be fine because that will also match up with the white supports that I have on my shelves right now. So, okay. All right, so I was doing a little bit more thinking, and rather than keep these white and just hang this on the wall, I decided to go ahead and adapt a previous base that I made for the Discovery that I took to my last convention, which was, or took to a convention for the IPMS in Chattanooga back in August of last year, 2019. I actually had 2 bases for this. The first one was kind of a curved foam and had a picture, a graphic that I had printed out on it of space and Jupiter and its moons. And I wasn't crazy about it, so I redid it before the convention in Chattanooga, where I took some curved acrylic clear frames that I got on Amazon, and they were 2 parts held on with magnets, and you could sandwich a picture between them. So I took some L brackets and I glued them on the back of the frames, painted them black on the back, and then I had a new picture printed that went the length of it. It was pretty big. It was 5 big frames and spanned the size of the model, which is about 4 feet, give or take, 3.5 feet. So that one is big and ungainly, so I didn't really want to try to put that any place and display it, and I couldn't really hang it on the wall. But I still had the pictures, the graphics, and they're loose. So what I'm going to try to do is come up with this idea to put those in a flat form, like a picture frame. And then I painted these flat black so they would go on it and be kind of disguised over top of it. So let me kind of show you what I'm working on with that. All right, so I'm working on the space background that's going to be on the wall behind the Discovery. And the brackets are going to be attached onto these. So these are the actual printouts that I made that were sandwiched in between a curved clear picture frame that I put some L brackets on the back. So if you watch my previous video on the Discovery, I actually had 2 different bases. The first one I made out of some foam and glued it on. I wasn't real thrilled with it. It did the job at the time, but I wasn't crazy about it. So I redid it, and if you go back and watch my other videos, you'll see what I did there. But it was very heavy, very awkward, very bulky, and it couldn't be the kind of thing that I could hang up on a wall, obviously. And I even considered taking off like the clear the frames, and what they were is I bought these off of Amazon. They were 2 pieces of a clear acrylic that were curved, and they had 4 magnets, 1 in each corner, and they fit together, and you would sandwich a picture between them, and it would stand up usually on like a curve. But what I did was I had them curved like this with an L bracket going between them, or on the back of them, glued on the back, with I epoxied on. And like I said, it was very heavy, very awkward, and I had to glue on the stands onto it and for the kit. So all I'm going to do with this is these are going to be like pictures. They're going to be hanging on the wall. And they were already in 2 pieces for the 2 main parts. The far right has Jupiter and its moons, a couple of its moons. And the left part was just a space background. And in between it, I had 2 other pieces. I forget, I had messed up. And so instead of having 1 piece that was the same thickness, because this was like the width of one of the curved displays, I ended up with 2 pieces. And so I had to put that in the middle. I think it had to do with something of them fitting. I don't remember. But anyway, I don't want to use both of these on a centerpiece because it just looks kind of tacky with a big seam in the middle. So what I thought I would do is just use one of them. And what I'm going to do is put a frame around this as well. And I'll show you what I did with these in a moment. And then I'm going to have a little bit of space between this one and this one, a little bit more space in this one. It'll look kind of an artistic view of it, where you'll have these paintings and then the Discovery will just be kind of attached in front of them. So what I used is I got some picture frames. They're poster frames from Hobby Lobby. And they have a plastic removable frame around it, and there's a pretty thick board on the back. It's not too hard to cut. I can cut it with an X-Acto knife. And then there are 2 different hangers, so I made sure that each of these had a hanger at the top. And I took the picture out, of course. And it also has clear plastic, very thin, which I don't want to use. I don't want these to be glossy. So that'll actually come in handy because there's some big sheets and it's pretty clear. I can use it again for some other project. But what I did was I had to cut the back board down to size, and I had to cut the frames and give them a 45-degree angle so they would match up. And then on the back, I just used some Tamiya tape, which is all I happen to have in stock right now, and just taped the frame on the back. And I made sure, like I said, the hanger there is at the top of each one, so I can hang it from the wall like it's a painting. And both of them are that way. So there are going to be 2 of them, like I said, and these are both done. I think they look really cool. And once I get them hung up there with a nail, I will figure out where the brackets need to go, and I painted them flat black. I'll basically just stick them on like that, and you're going to see them, but when you look at a distance, you're just going to see the Discovery sitting in here and in front of the space background, which is going to look cool. But once I get these up on the wall, or see where they're going to be on the wall, I can then figure out where these 3 holes go, drill through these, and put the screws through. And I'm going to have to paint those black as well. They're just silver. And then there'll be 3, one on this one probably in the center one, and one on the other end. And I'll have it centered within that framework so that the ship is just sitting right there in front of them. So, all right, you'll get a better idea once I get it up on the wall and get these attached, and we'll kind of go from there. So, all right. But I'm really liking these images within a frame. I think they look pretty cool. Okay. All right, so I got the 3 picture frames hung up with the space scene. I think it looks really cool. I like how it breaks it up in the middle. It kind of gives it a more artsy kind of look, I guess. All right, so these were a bit tricky. Just hanging them, they weren't really going to line up right, so I took the top bar off of each, and I took the picture out, and I just used a couple of thin finishing nails, and I put one in each end. And so I lined them up with the line that I created. I started with a level, and I just measured down from the top, just a distance where I wanted it to be. I used the level, and I kept it level, and then I drew a line on top of it, and so that they would all be level. And then I just placed them in and drew on the side so I knew where they were both going to be, or all 3 going to be. So, all right, so I think that looks fantastic. All I have to do now is figure out where the brackets are going to go. I'm going to have one kind of in the middle of this one in the middle of here, and one sort of in the middle of each of them. So it centers it and puts it where I want it to be. So I just have to figure out where those are going to be, get those screwed into the actual wall, which is behind this, and then I'll be ready to go ahead and get the model up there. All right, there we go. So I have the 3 brackets attached to the pictures, and I'll paint those screws, those silver screws, black, so they'll blend in more. But you can already see, if you're standing back from it, it doesn't really, you can't really see the bases very obviously, or the brackets. You just see the ship as though it's in space. So all I had to really do was center the middle one, because I wanted that communications dish to be in the center. And then once I did that, I just had to hold this main frame, because the spine is all one piece, and the command sphere and the propulsion unit are separate. So once I get those centered and get it where it's supposed to be, I just have to put those other 2 parts on, and that'll be it. So, okay. All right, there we go. So I have the whole kit up there. I put some flat black over top of the silver screws so they blend in as well. So as you can see from this distance, unless you focus directly on it, they're just going to blend into the back, the brackets. You're not really going to see them. So it looks like the ship is just floating in the space background. So that's really, really cool. I'm really happy with how that turned out. And as I said, I have this on a remote control, so I can just turn it on. Come on, right button. There we go. Make a liar out of myself. So you can see I don't have to get up there. Now it does have batteries in it, so eventually they'll wear out, but I'm not going to keep it turned on all the time. But if I want to turn it on, I can certainly do so. That looks really, really cool. Zoom in a little bit. All right, so you can see it's supported nicely by all 3 brackets. And as long as you have them in the front, right before the command module. Now, of course, I have my command module held on by magnets. They're pretty strong magnets. So if you had it glued on, same thing, supported there, supported in the middle, and supported on the end, that's perfectly nicely supported. And the back isn't really that heavy either, because it's hollow. And then I have the front on there, so. Okay, and I can turn that off. And you can see Jupiter there in the background and some of the moons near it. All right, so that's fantastic. I'm really happy with that. And that's gonna go really nicely with my other models that I'm displaying. Now, I brought home a few more, so I'm already out of space. As you can see, they're all crammed on that top shelf. So I wanted to leave this space open so I can do another set of shelves up there, and I can do another set of shelves underneath, or even do stagger a couple underneath there, so I can add some more things. But this is the majority of my models. I have one more, the Invisible Man, that is completed, and then I have my Space Clipper, which has its own unique diorama base, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that. That I may make another shelf down here just for that to sit on, but it would have to be pretty sturdy because it's got a little bit of weight to it. It has the same, that's the first one I did with the clear acrylic curved frames to put a background. And that one, I think, is a much better representation of it. So, all right, so fantastic. I'm really happy with how that's coming along, and getting some display up here for my models. Fantastic. All right, so one final change. After getting it up and taking some pictures and looking at it, the centerpiece looked a lot like the shape of HAL 9000. And I'd even posted the pictures, and at least one other person commented and said, hey, you missed an opportunity. You could have put HAL 9000 in the middle there, looking over top of the Discovery. And I was like, yeah, I just thought of that myself. So I went ahead and ordered the Mobius model of HAL 9000. Took me about a week to get it in because of the shipping and situations going on right now. But I wasn't really going to buy this kit because it wasn't really something I wanted necessarily, but it's going to be perfect to go in between the two pictures of the space and HAL looking over the Discovery with his eye. So I got this today, and this is the fastest build I have ever done on a kit. I mean, granted, it's a simple model. There's really not much to it. So what I did was on the main body, I painted it with some Tamiya metallic black, which looks pretty cool. I did a flat black on this speaker to get the little holes, and then I went over it with some gunmetal. I might still do a light dusting of some silver or aluminum. I still have to do the outer edge, tape that off and do the outer edge in aluminum. I did this ring in aluminum, and I painted this part flat black. I already have the two bubbles glued in. I just glued them in with some AC glue slightly on the edge, because again, it's going to be sitting up on my wall. It's not going to be a model I'm taking anywhere to show at a convention or anything. The light's actually pretty cool. When you put it in there, it does this little red light, and you have your battery. They even give you a piece of double-sided tape to tape the battery onto the inside of this. They give you some decals, which are cool, for around the ring of of his lens, and up here for HAL 9000. So all I have to do is mask this off, paint the aluminum, and then get the decals on and get ready to hang it up on the wall. All right, I think that's going to look really fantastic. All right, so I just used some clear, I think it's called frisking paper or something like that. It's just a really thin, self-adhesive, clear sheet that you use to mask things. So I had some on hand, and most of the edges were square, so I just cut it out to that inner part, masked it off, and painted aluminum around the whole thing. All right, I still have to glue these parts on and then do the decals and just clip in the battery and the light, and I'm ready to go. Fantastic. All right, and there is my completed HAL up in between the two space graphics for the Discovery. I'm maybe not keeping the positioning of the red eye right where it is, but when I'm sitting down low and looking up here, because it's high up at the ceiling, I can see it, but I wanted to try to keep this centered from top to bottom. I played with the idea on several things of either cutting it to the right lengths and modifying it and moving it, and I didn't want to keep doing all that and affect the aesthetic of it, so I think it's fine as it is. It's just hanging on two screws. It's just sitting on it like a picture frame, so I could move those and move it up or down if I wanted to. So, but for now, I'm going to leave it as it is. I did move the other frame over to here. I also played with some ideas of cutting a hole through and extending it, but that would have again messed it all up. So I ended up just going with it as it is, the model as it is. And again, the fastest model I have built probably in my life. It took me a few hours today, and 90% of that was painting it and masking it off. But I think it turned out beautifully. Really happy with how that looks. How menacingly looking over the Discovery as it flies through space. Sorry for the noise in the background. A lot of kids outside playing with the nice, beautiful weather we're having today. But there you go. And there's how. Little switch right there. It just has a 9-volt battery that's stuck in it, and I can just turn it off with the switch. I just have to reach up, obviously, and just manually turn it off, and do it that way. I also play with the idea of doing a remote control, but again, it wasn't worth it because it's not a model I'm taking to a show. It's just part of this display, and I think it turned out fantabulously. So, all right, so I'm really happy with this. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on my next video.